If I can talk to you, James, because listen, I get on my knees every night and pray for someone to believe in me like Daryl Morey believed in you. You wanted a certain coach, they brought in Mike D'Antoni. You want to play a certain style, they played it. You wanted Dwight Howard, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. You wanted Chris Paul, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. They brought in your old friend Russell Westbrook. You want to go to Vegas on off days? They looked away. You wanted the team to stay over so you could go out at night? They changed the schedule. Because, James, you're not the beard, you're not the system, you're the problem.
In his prime, James Harden seemed to be made of something more resilient than mere flesh and bone, a veritable machine. There were nights when he would party until dawn, barely catching a few hours of sleep, only to emerge on the court, draining three-pointers as if the sun had never set. But as the years passed, the toll began to mount. When Harden reported to the Rockets training camp in 2020, it was as if a once reliable engine had sputtered to life, struggling against the weight of its own deterioration. He arrived out of shape, a stark contrast to the lean, agile player he had once been. His conditioning, once a source of pride, was now a whisper of its former self, and lurking behind that veneer was the specter of injuries, specifically those nagging hamstring issues. Those injuries were not mere coincidences. They were the byproduct of a cycle that had spiraled out of control. In the relentless pursuit of his former glory, Harden found himself ensnared in a vicious cycle. Brooklyn Nets. When James Harden arrived in Brooklyn, it felt as though the basketball gods had conspired to create the ultimate trio. Harden, alongside Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, formed a triumvirate that sent chills down the spines of defenders across the league. The anticipation was electric. Brooklyn had morphed into a high-octane powerhouse, and the whispers of a championship echoed in the air. Fans envisioned a glorious parade down Atlantic Avenue, basking in the golden glow of a long-awaited title. In the early rounds of the 2021 playoffs, Harden seemed to be fulfilling his role as the orchestrator of this basketball symphony. He dazzled on the court, displaying an artistry that was both thrilling and terrifying for opposing teams. Averaging nearly 30 points per game, he was a maestro, conducting plays with an effortless rhythm. Hope surged through Brooklyn. This was the moment, the culmination of years of ambition, setbacks, and hard-fought battles. A championship felt imminent. But then, like a cruel twist in a well-scripted drama, disaster struck in Game 1 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Harden, the star quarterback of this basketball dream team, fell victim to yet another hamstring injury, a tragic echo of his past. As the series unfolded, Harden's performance dwindled, an unfortunate shadow of his former self. In a do-or-die Game 7, he was relegated to a mere decoy, offering little more than a ghostly presence on the court. The Nets, once the darlings of the league, found themselves unceremoniously ousted, leaving a fan base heartbroken and bewildered. The Nets had downplayed the severity of his condition, labeling it as muscle tightness instead of a grade 2 strain, a miscommunication that loomed large in the narrative. Harden's choice to play on an injured hamstring was noble, yet reckless. The dream of a championship evaporated, leaving behind a haunting echo of missed opportunities and unrealized potential. The season ended, not with a bang, but with a whimper. A bittersweet reminder that in sports, glory is often paired with heartbreak.
James, how would you sum up now that Kevin and Kyrie are gone, you left obviously last year, y'all's time together?
Frustrating. You know what I mean? It's a lot of what ifs. You know what I mean? I think we only played less than 20 games together. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit frustrating. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Hopefully everybody's in a good place now and we can move on.
Trade to the Philadelphia. The trade that sent James Harden to the Philadelphia felt like a fresh start, a chance to rewrite a story that had spiraled into uncertainty. He shared the court with Joel Embiid, a superstar in his own right. In those initial games, the duo was electric, a whirlwind of scoring and playmaking that sparked visions of championship dreams. Harden seemed revitalized, a phoenix rising from the ashes of his Nets tenure. The early season buzz hinted at something extraordinary. Perhaps, just perhaps, the elixir of rest and a fresh environment had reinvigorated him. He was thriving, rediscovering the rhythm that had been lost amid the tumult of injuries and exhaustion. But as the calendar flipped and the season progressed, the familiar specter of injury loomed once again. The relentless grind of the NBA season began to take its toll, and Harden wasn't about that life. Then came the crushing blow. Embiid got injured. The playoffs approached, and fans were left holding their breath, hoping for a miraculous resurgence. Instead, what unfolded was a series of performances that only deepened the shadows cast by Harden's declining stats. In the playoffs against the Miami Heat, the cracks in the foundation were exposed. Harden, the once feared offensive juggernaut, struggled to find his rhythm. The stat sheets reflected a harsh reality: fewer points, fewer assists, and a growing sense of frustration among fans. As the Sixers were eliminated, the air in Philadelphia grew thick with disappointment. The hopes that had ignited with Harden's arrival began to fade, replaced by a gnawing uncertainty about his future that was in the Los Angeles Clippers. The decline. As the dust settled on James Harden's tumultuous journey, one couldn't help but reflect on a career that had been a study in contrasts, a narrative woven with brilliance and shadow, the echoes of his former self, a player who danced through defenses with an audacity that was both mesmerizing and terrifying, now seemed distant, almost ethereal. Harden had once embodied the very essence of what it meant to be a superstar, yet here he stood, faced with the stark reality of physical decline and unrelenting injuries that had shaped his recent performances. The toll of years spent sprinting through the league had not just worn down his body, it had chipped away at the core of his game. The physical weariness that hung over him like a dark cloud was palpable, a reminder of the late nights spent celebrating victories and the relentless pursuit of excellence that had at times blurred the line between passion and recklessness. Decisions made in the glow of nightlife, while seemingly innocuous, had compounded over time, leading to a series of choices that ultimately undermined his long-term health. In a league that demands resilience, the rush to return from injuries, a hallmark of his competitive spirit, had transformed from a badge of honor into a potential Achilles heel. It was a bittersweet irony. The very drive that had propelled him to greatness now served as a double-edged sword. Harden's propensity to push through pain had cost him dearly, leaving fans to ponder the what-ifs. What if he had allowed his body to heal properly? What if he had prioritized his well-being over the relentless chase for glory? Yet, amid the uncertainty, loomed a flicker of hope. Harden was no stranger to adversity. His story had been marked by comebacks and resurgences. As he stood on the precipice of his next chapter, there remained the tantalizing possibility of redemption. The question of whether he could reclaim his place among the elite hung in the air, thick with anticipation, but the challenges ahead were formidable. The league was an unforgiving battleground, and each passing season brought fresh competition and relentless scrutiny. Would Harden rise to meet these trials, or would he be another cautionary tale, a once great star whose flame flickered out too soon? The answers lay ahead, cloaked in uncertainty. But one thing remained clear: the narrative of James Harden was far from over. It was a story still being written, with every dribble and every shot carrying the weight of expectations, aspirations, and the ghosts of choices past.